When you first got the case, was there any records from Slime Business Rod's account, that Instagram account?
What do you mean?
Was there ever any additional records requested from that Instagram handle?
Okay, so when I got the case, I reviewed 2 sets of Instagram records that were obtained during the course of this investigation. One of the records was obtained by the lead investigator who was investigating the homicide of Jamari Holmes, which was for a smaller window of time surrounding that particular investigation or homicide, what they knew based off of information they, I guess, discovered directly around the beginning times of the investigation. And then the second set of records that were obtained for Slime Business Rod were obtained by investigators in the District Attorney's Office that expanded the date ranges of the search warrant. So they contained, they did not contain exactly the same information, but the newer records have a more expanded set of data.
So getting back to Instagram and how the records come back, with that target number that we had, if someone were to change their vanity name or change the name that they have and you requested records, would Instagram be able to keep track of the account you're requesting?
Yes. Will you pull that back?
Yes.
So no matter how much the where it says vanity name Slime Business Rod, that can be changed by any owner of the account whenever they want, and it would appear different to all the followers or whoever was able to view that Instagram profile. However, if you scroll to the top,
yes,
the account number, that 294-6121951, that'll never change. Everything that is associated with that particular account will be saved under that number, regardless of how many times the vanity name or username is changed.
Can you tell the jury if Instagram ever captures, or can you video call an Instagram first? Can 2 Instagram users video one another through the app?
Oh, yeah. So, yes. Instagram can also be used as a direct communication platform where you can place telephone calls or video calls over the platform.
And if you were looking at records where someone used or received a video call, are you able to tell how long they spoke?
So these records were returned in 2019. Things have changed. The way Instagram stores and formats the return. But at the time, any sort of video calls between 2 individuals would only show up as a video call event. And you wouldn't be able to look at the length of the call as to the way Instagram was storing those records. What you got to keep in mind, though, is it's different from what you see on the interface of your phone or your account. But it would display as a date, time, video call event, and the 2 or more parties that were a part of that video call event.
Are you able to determine if that call was answered or not in these 2019 Instagram records?
No, not in those 2019 records.
And I wanted to ask you, too, with Instagram records, do they keep any location data in 2019 of where someone was when they sent a message?
I don't know about location data. I do know that they maintained the IP address that was used the IP address for when the account was logged on and the message sent, that is saved. But I don't know about specific location data. Now,
in this specific case, other than the Instagram associated with Rodalius Ryan, what other Instagrams did you review?
I reviewed a Instagram returns for Damone Blalock, Tahiria Hartsfield, Bernard Mitchell, and I believe Mariah. I can't remember Mariah's last name off the top of my head.
And when you reviewed these records, was there a specific time frame you were reviewing them for? Were you?
So yeah, when I was asked to review these records, I was asked to look at the time frame, the days before and right after the murder of Jamari Holmes. So really, during my initial review of these records, I kind of knew the names of the accounts that I was looking for, as well as the general dates. So I kind of focused from February 22nd, 2019 through about February 24th of 2019, just before and after the homicide of Jamari Holmes.
Now, with this, is yellow the account associated with Blalock and the purple slime business Rod the account associated with Ryan?
That is correct.
Okay. One. And do you have the times listed here in Eastern Standard Time or UTC time?
No, I wanted to make it an exact as it appeared in the Instagram records, so I maintained the times in UTC.
Okay. So I wanted to walk through some of these with you. And if you can use that pointer. So when you start here, it has February 22nd, 2019. What is the first time and message in this time frame you looked at between the account associated with Blalock and the account associated with Ryan?
So this would have been at 1:39 and 38 seconds p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it just said, yo.
And after some back and forth, do you get to February 23rd, 2019?
I do, and I will say that I just chose February 22nd as a date that I was going to start for all of the communications between the parties I was looking at. So I wanted to include everything.
And with the messages that was the murder on February 23rd, 2019?
Yes.
And with that day, is this the first message on that day, February 23rd, 2019?
Yes. So it would have been coming from Blalock to Ryan at 6:07:40 UTC, which is 1:07:40 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And what's the response back? Ryan says.
Blalock says yo. A, and Ryan says yo. And then Blalock asks, where you at?
And when Ryan, have you ever heard of anywhere in Atlanta called the Ville?
Yes, I believe that's Mechanicsville.
And so what time is it that the account associated with Rodalius Ryan says to Blalock he's at the Ville?
6:38:25 UTC, which is going to be 1:38 in the morning.
Now, what is Blalock's next message after that?
Blalock asks, "Are you going to pick them up?"
Object to the characterization of what Blalock says for handset.
Sustained.
And Your Honor, I'm going to object to just simply reading all the messages. The jury is able to read them. We don't need them read out loud. If there's a specific question about what's being said, I think that's appropriate. We don't need them read out
Your
loud.
Honor, speaking of, okay. So Mr. Hiles, let's walk through this for the jury, all right? So when you got these records, did you review any of the evidence in the case beforehand? Without saying what it is, but did you review the case?
So yeah, I reviewed the case file, and what I was looking to do was establish a timeline based off of these messages and associate it with the parties that I was looking into and get as close to the timeline leading up to the murder and afterwards as possible. And that's why the timestamps are on everything.
Okay. And Blalock, he says you're going to pick them up to Ryan.
Correct.
What time does he send that message in Eastern Standard Time?
In Eastern Standard Time, it would have been 1:38 and 37 seconds a.m.
Now, scrolling to this next page, what is the message and time of the account associated with Rodalius Ryan respond?
Mr. Ryan says, I believe he meant to say hell no, but I think it was autocorrected or to heal no.
And what does he say after that? TXT them.
So at 6:40, 34, it says text them. Oh, sorry, it's 6:40:21, which would have been 1:40 a.m. It says text them, tell them I'm
Going to object to the interpretations of the words. It has to be restricted to what's on the exhibit.
Your Honor, I can lay a little bit of foundation.
All right.
So, Mr. Hiles, how many Instagram records did you say you've reviewed in your time in the DA's office?
over 300.
Have you ever seen TXT before in those records you've reviewed?
In those records I've reviewed, as well as shorthand for other texts that I've personally received.
And have you ever seen TXT used for the shorthand for text?
I have.
Okay. Now, with any of these, you don't know what any of the senders intended in their minds, right?
No.
Okay. So, what is after the account associated with Ryan text Blalock text them? What does he say right after that?
Tell them I'm outside.
And does Blalock give any kind of confirmation?
Yes. At about 1:40, 59 seconds, Blalock responds, "Aye."
Now, okay, I'm going to go to 4 minutes later at 6:44:26. What does the account with Ryan respond back?
It says what they say.
And 20 or so seconds after that, what does the account associated with Blalock say back?
Let me call them now.
And then after this, after let me call them now, what is Ryan's response?
At 6:44:26 UTC, which is again is 1:44 a.m., Ryan responds, "Aye."
Okay. Now, and then is there a video call event after that?
I believe there's at least 2 video call events. Yes.
And for these video call events, if they're on the left-hand side, does this mean that the account associated with Blalock is calling Mr. Ryan or the reverse?
So it means it would have been Blalock the way because it's yellow, associated with the yellow account. That bubble, it would have been Mr. Blalock attempting to call Mr. Well, I don't know if it was an attempted call or a successful call. I just know that there was a video call event. I can't tell you if they spoke, how long they spoke, or what. But there was 2 of them in short succession.
So, turning to the next page, is there a sequence of video call events initiated from the account associated with Mr. Ryan to Blalock?
Yes, between 7:04:07 and 7:05:28, there's video call events.
And after that last video call by the account associated with Blalock, what is this back and forth response?
It says, Blalock says, "What's up?" And then Ryan's response to Blalock is, "Open the door," which would have been at 7:06:21 UTC, which is 2:06 a.m. and 21 seconds. So that was, Ryan asking Blalock to open the door. And he says, all right.
Okay. Now, after that message at 2:06:21 Eastern Time, or 2:06:26, where Blalock says, all right, where my cursor, that bottom left on the screen, when is the next communication between the Instagram accounts associated with Blalock and Ryan?
It would have been a video call event at 10:11:06 UTC, which would have been 5:11:06 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Roughly speaking, how long is that gap?
Between, it would have been, sorry. Oh, it would have been just over 3 hours.
Just over 3 hours?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to, Ms. Knight's going to assist me. I wanted to publish what's already been admitted as State's Exhibit 1, November. And if you scroll down just a little. No. Thank you, Ms. Knight. What time was this 1 November received? Mr. Hiles.
The E911 call was received at 4:36 a.m.
Thank you, Ms. Knight. So, after you look through the Instagram messages between the account associated with Ryan and Blalock, did you turn to any other of the Instagrams that you looked at in that same time frame?
So I went through this process, yes, and I extracted all the conversations between the parties we talked about, these 4 different conversations, for the same time frame. And the other one that I went to next, after digesting what this conversation said,
Yes.
was the conversation between Mr. Ryan and Ms. Hartsfield.
Okay. I'm going to publish for you and the jury 7 November Alpha. And this is between the accounts associated with Rodalius, Ryan, and Ms. Hartsfield?
That is correct.
So, as we zoom in here, I wanted to walk through this, starting with, so this first conversation, did you look back a little bit before February 23rd, 2019 when you started?
So, again, my intent was to start at, I just picked February 22nd as the date that I was going to extract all these conversations out to summarize. That was the day before the murder. And so I started anything that was in UTC time, any UTC time on February 22nd, 2019 in those Instagram records, I extracted as part of this summary.
And for this summary, is the light pink what's going on the account associated with Ms. Hartsfield?
Yes, that would be Ms. Hartsfield.
And is it the same purple color for the account Slime Business Rod associated with Ryan?
That is correct.
Okay. So can you break down for the jury where you started, what's the first message from the account associated with Ms. Hartsfield?
First message was at 6:29:46 UTC on February 22nd, 2019, which would have been 1:29:46 a.m. And she asked, "Where you at?" And The response shortly thereafter at 6:30, 20 UTC was, "Believeland, what's up? Where you at?"
And what did she respond back to?
She responds, "The Ville," and then what that mean.
I'm going to pick this.
Sure.
Republishing 7 November Alpha. And this is all on February 22nd, 2019.
Correct?
And what is the time frame for this on the 22nd of February?
The original messaging started at 6:29:46 UTC, which is 1:29 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay.
And then
Going to February 22nd, 2019, is this the early morning hours of the day before?
no, that would have been the early morning hours of February 22nd, 2019. Yeah.
Okay. And how does this start here with the message associated with Ryan?
This message that you have highlighted says, "For what?" And the response from Ms. Hartsfield is, Bali said, "Come, take him to the store," and Ms. Hartsfield has replaced the C and come with a K.
And one of the vanity names for the account associated with Blalock was Little Bali 1, is that right?
That is correct.
And then what is the next sequence of responses between the account associated with Ms. Hartsfield and the account associated with Mr. Ryan?
Will you highlight where you want me to?
Yes, starting right here.
So it says, "In what you mean?" ? And then the response from Mr. Ryan is, "Bali in the bill." And the response from Ms. Hartsfield is, "No, he at home." And there is a laughing emoji sent by Mr. Ryan. And then during this exchange at 6:41:07 UTC, there is a video call event. And then a message from Ms. Hartsfield that states, "Why that face?" And the C, again, has been replaced with an X. And then
going a little bit further, is there a series of video calls from the account associated with Ryan to the account associated with Ms. Hartsfield?
yes, there are.
And can you describe for the jury, so you have this message at 7:55:08. Is that still February 22nd?
That is.
And Ryan says, what's the address?
That's correct.
And then on this summary, is this now in Eastern Standard Time switching over to February 23rd?
Yes.
Okay. So what is the first message on February 23rd between the account associated with Blalock and Hartsfield?
So Blalock says to Hartsfield at 5:41:19, which would be 12:40, or that's UTC, the 5:41. It's going to be 12:41 a.m. He says, "Yo, where you at?" And Ms. Hartsfield's response is the Ville, which is the Mechanicsville neighborhood.
And then is there a series of 2 video calls initiated from the account associated with Hartsfield to the account associated with Blalock? I mean with Ryan.
I believe it's actually a series of 4 video calls. If you continue scrolling to the next page, you'll see 2 more.
And what's the time of this last video call initiated between the Hartsfield and Ryan?
At 5:51:57 UTC, which is 12:51 a.m., Ms. Hartsfield initiates a video call event, and then about 5 minutes later at 5:56:07 UTC or 12:56 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Mr. Ryan initiates 2 video call events in short succession. And then there are 2 more video call events initiated by Ms. Hartsfield. And then at 6:01, they or Ms. Hartsfield initiates a video call. That's going to be 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is the last video call event. And then at 1:01:28 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Ms. Hartsfield sends an address to Mr. Ryan that says 709 Windsor Street, which is actually an address inside the Mechanicsville community.
Now, she sends that address at 1:01:28 Eastern Standard Time?
Yes.
And then what is this next message from the account with Ryan?
So it says, it says open the door, which would have been at 1:34 a.m. and 45 seconds, or 6:34:45. And so when I was reviewing these text messages, trying to get a timeline of events, that's when I realized that at the same time, Rodalius Ryan is telling Ms. Hartsfield to open the door. Rodalius Ryan was simultaneously texting Damone Blalock saying, call the girls or tell them to open the door.
When Mr. House, so leaving 1:34 p.m. open the door text, I'm going to
AM.
I'm going to go back to 7 November and go to this 1:40:34.
Yeah.
And can you describe for the jury how these two correlate with one
This
another?
is the conversation between Rodalius Ryan and Damone Blalock, and Rodalius Ryan is texting Damone Blalock saying, tell him I'm outside. Now, during the more or less within a minute of that text, he is also texting Tyria Hartfield saying, open the door.
And then picking back up on 7 November Alpha, after this open the door, is there a sequence of video call events from the account associated with Ryan to Hartsfield?
So between the open the door text was sent at 6:34:45 UTC, which would have been 1:34:45 a.m. So between 6:35:22 UTC, which is 1:35 a.m., and 6:39:47, which is 1:39:47 a.m., there are 9 video call events that appear to be initiated by Mr. Ryan trying to call Ms. Hartsfield. And after the 9th call, Mr. Rodalius Ryan sends another message to Ms. Hartsfield that says, open the door. At 6:17 UTC or 1:40 a.m., another video call event is initiated, and about 30 seconds later at 6:40:51, Mr. Ryan sends a message to Ms. Hartsfield that says, so you ain't gonna open the door? And then at 6:46:45 UTC or 1:46:45 a.m., Ms. Hartsfield responds, where you at? And then at 6:49:08 UTC, which is 1:49:08 a.m. The response from Mr. Ryan is outside. And that was the last communication between Rodalius Ryan and Ms. Hartsfield for the date of February 23rd, 2019. That was the last communication between those two parties.
And what's this last message? What's the date and time of that?
On February 24th, 2019?
Correct.
The last message on February 24th, 2019, it says, "What you do in love," and it has a, I think it's a laughing face emoji.
Now, after looking at this Instagram in this time frame from Hartsfield's account and Ryan's account, was there any communication between Blalock's account and Hartsfield?
Yes, there was.
And for this is Ms. Hartsfield's account in light pink and One King Doe 1 in yellow?
Yes, so light pink, What's Going 1, Ms. Hartsfield, yellow, One King Doe 1, that would be Mr. Blalock.
And this first back and forth, is this February 22nd, 2019?
So it is. Keep in mind, though, that I just was using UTC time, and so the 1:59:07 UTC on February 22nd, 2019 is actually going to be 8 p.m., just before the 9 o'clock hour Eastern Standard Time.
Okay. And they have some back and forth on February 22nd, 2019, right?
Correct.
Okay. Getting to February 23rd, 2019, what is this message, or what time is this message WIA in Eastern Standard Time at the top of page 2?
On February 23rd or 22nd?
February 22nd.
February 22nd, it is, that last where you at is 23:27:01. That's going to be, now I'm going to have to do,
It's going to be 11 minus 5 hours?
yes. Okay. So about 6:27:01.
Okay. Now, turning to February 23, 2019, what is this? Is there a series of video call events? What's the timeline of these?
So on February 23rd, 2019, Ms. Hartsfield initiates a video call event at 5:52:08 UTC, which would have been 12:52 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And there are between 5:52:08 UTC and 6:09:58, so that's going to be 12:52 a.m. till 1:09 a.m. There are 6 different video call events initiated by Ms. Hartsfield directed towards Mr. Blalock.
And after that, is there some video calls initiated? What's the time of this first video call that Blalock initiates to Hartsfield's account?
So at 6:41:03 and again at 6:41:07, which is 1:41 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Mr. Blalock initiates 2 video call events going to towards Ms. Hartsfield, sorry.
And what is this text after that?
So at 6:41:15 UTC, Blalock texts Ms. Hartsfield and states, "Lil Rod says he outside."
So when looking at the messages that Hartsfield's having with Ryan and Blalock's own conversation, do you see any kind of pattern between those three?
Yeah, they were all having conversations with each other independently of the others around the same time. So when Mr. Ryan was trying to get Ms. Hartsfield to answer, he was also texting Mr. Blalock to have Ms. Hartsfield do the same thing.
I'm going to object to testimony about what someone was doing.
Sustained.
So, Mr. Hiles, when you're speaking, you can say, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you say Mr. Atkins' account texted Mr. Hiles' account, is this the account associated with you or I? Or in this example,
What you
Hartsfield and
can see from these records is that in the messages between Mr. Ryan and Ms. Hartsfield, Mr. Ryan then that account texts Ms. Hartsfield and states, "I'm outside." And then if you go to the next message thread at the same time, you can see that Mr. Ryan texts Mr. Blalock and says, "Tell them I'm outside." And then if you go to the conversation between Mr. Blalock and Ms. Hartsfield, you can see Mr. Blalock telling Ms. Hartsfield in an independent conversation that Lil Rod say he outside.
Now, after Lil Rod says he's outside, the message from the account associated with Blalock to Hartsfield, when is the next communication between Blalock's Instagram and Hartsfield's Instagram?
The next Instagram communication is at 10:11:37 UTC, which would have been 5:11 a.m. And there are at 10:11:37 a.m. and 10:11:55. I'm crossing myself up. 10:11:37 UTC and 10:11:55 UTC. There are two Instagram video call initiations from Blalock to Ms. Hartsfield.
So, from 1:41 a.m. with this text, there's a gap until these video calls at 5:11 a.m. on February 23rd?
That's correct.
Okay. And then is there some additional video call events a few minutes later from the Instagram account associated with Ms. Hartsfield to Blalock?
Yeah, Ms. Hartsfield says initiates at 10:14:35 UTC and 10:15:04 UTC video call events directed towards Mr. Blalock.
And in reviewing Instagram records, have you ever seen a short phrase of DF?
Yeah, it's an acronym for DeFuck.
And so this last message, what's the time of this?
At 10:15:05 UTC, which is 5:15:05 a.m., Ms. Hartsfield says to Mr. Blalock, "Where the fuck you at?"
And does he have any response to that message?
Yes, Mr. Blalock liked the message, "Where the fuck you at?" that was sent by Ms. Hartsfield.
And then is there a series of video calls from, how many video calls are there after that from the Instagram account associated with Hartsfield to Blalock?
Between 10:15:13 UTC and 10:16:37 UTC, there are a series of 4 Instagram video call events initiated by Ms. Hartsfield towards Mr. Blalock. So that would be 5:15:13 a.m. to 5:16:37 a.m.
Now, once you reviewed and looked at the communication between the Instagram accounts of Blalock, Ryan, and Ms. Hartsfield, did you ever look at this same time frame with any Instagram messages associated with Bernard Mitchell's Instagram account?
Yes.
And did Bernard Mitchell have any communication with anyone in this window of the records you were looking at?
So of the records that I look at, I did find communications between Bernard Mitchell as well as Miss Hartsfield.
Did you pull some messages before February 23rd?
Yeah, so there was not quite as many messages between Miss Hartsfield and Mr. Mitchell as there were between her and the other individuals. So I included a little bit longer of a date range for the messages between Bernard Mitchell and Tyria Hartsfield.
And 4L1 Joker in blue is the account associated with Bernard Mitchell?
Yeah, I believe it's 4L.Lil Joker.
And this is the same What's Going On associated with Miss Hartsfield?
That is correct.
And in terms of February 23rd, what is the first message that you have?
8:40:27 UTC, which would have been 3:40:27 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Miss Hartsfield sends a message to Mr. Mitchell that says, "Pull up for real."
So these first three summaries we walked through was around 1:40 a.m., a time we were just talking about, between Blalock, Ryan, and Hartsfield's Instagram accounts.
Correct.
Is this roughly 2 hours after that?
Yes.
And what does the account from Mr. Mitchell respond back to from this message that Hartsfield's account sends around 3:40 on February 23rd a.m.?
Response is, where you at?
And then is this showing video call events after that from Hartsfield's account to Mitchell's?
Yes, it shows that Ms. Hartsfield at 8:54:30 UTC and 8:54:31 UTC, which would be 3:54 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, there are two back-to-back video call events initiated from Ms. Hartsfield to Bernard Mitchell.
And then what's these two messages here that you
At 8:54:35, which is again 3:54 a.m., Ms. Hartsfield says, "Where you at? On the way." And then at 8:59:28, which would be 3:59 a.m., Ms. Hartsfield says to Mr. Mitchell, "Where you at? Da fuck."
And what is Mr. Mitchell's response?
His response is he sends two messages within 13 seconds just after 9 o'clock UTC or 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And those two messages are, "Bye Crystal, send Addie." And Ms. Hartsfield responds at 9:03 UTC, which is 4:03 a.m. "Okay, I'm getting it."
Okay, hold on one second. So did you know where the incident location was for the February 23rd, 2019 Jamari Holmes murder?
The homicide?
Yes.
Yeah, it's at 50 Mount Zion.
And what part of the city is that address?
What do you mean?
What area of Atlanta is 50 Mount Zion?
It's like the south side. It's over like by Cleveland Ave.
Do you have some familiarity with that location, that area?
Some.
Do you know if there is a Crystals in that near 50 Mount Zion Road?
I don't.
Okay. And have you ever seen a short term, when someone says send ADDY, what have you seen that mean in other contexts?
No, send Addie address.
Okay. And then what is Miss Hartsfield's response?
85 Mount Zion. And I do have the familiarity with, that is a apartment complex that is diagonal from 50 Mount Zion, just on the other side of the street.
Can you walk between those two apartment complexes in a short span of time?
If you wanted to. I couldn't tell you how long it would take, but yeah, they're kind of catty corner to each other.
And so what time is this message sent of 85 Mount Zion by the account associated with Hartsfield to Mitchell?
9:05:26 UTC, which would have been 4:05 a.m. and 26 seconds Eastern Standard Time.
And in this time where Hartsfield's account, where we're at, 4:05 a.m., is there any communication in the Instagram records between the accounts of Blalock, Ryan, or Hartsfield with each other?
At the 4 a.m. marker?
Correct.
Right there? I don't believe so.
Okay.
Let me ask you, just to interrupt, scheduling wise, how much longer do you expect the direct with this witness to be?
Your Honor, I would say about an hour or a
Okay,
little
let's
bit
break for
past
lunch.
that. Yes, Your Honor. So, Mr. Hiles, when we broke for lunch, I believe we were discussing, I'll go just a little bit back. So to reorient the jury, this demonstrative before us is Hartsfield's Instagram and the Instagram associated with Bernard Mitchell in blue. Is that correct?
Yes, this is a summary of the conversation of Ms. Hartsfield and Bernard Mitchell, yeah.
And I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. And so, timeline-wise, again, can you help orient, and I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger, this top video call event from Hartsfield's Instagram? What time is that in Eastern Standard Time?
So it would be 4:05 and 44 seconds Eastern Standard Time.
Okay. And then is there one roughly a little bit under a minute later at 4:06:21?
Yes.
Okay. Now, these next three on the right, the light blue, can you walk through how many video calls Bernard Mitchell has, Instagram has back to Ms. Hartsfield's Instagram?
Will you go back? I think I'm a little confused. Can we just start? Can you go back?
Yes. I will go back.
To 9 o'clock UTC.
Yes. So do you see this message by the crystal at 9:05 UTC?
This. And that was sent from Bernard Mitchell to Ms. Hartsfield.
And then can you walk the jury through, when you were reviewing this next sequence of events between Hartsfield's and Mitchell's Instagram?
Mr. Mitchell at 9 o'clock UTC, which would be 4 a.m., sent a message that said, "Send Daddy." 3 minutes later, Ms. Hartsfield responded, "Okay, I'm getting it," and then followed up the message with 85 Mount Zion. And that was at 9:05, so 4:05 a.m. Then at 4:05 a.m. and 44 seconds and 4:06 a.m. and 21 seconds, 2 video call events were initiated by Ms. Hartsfield towards Mr. Mitchell. Then again, the way Instagram stores the records, I don't know if they actually communicated or if it was a missed call or what, but as the records are stored in 2019, it doesn't indicate whether a conversation was had. And then at 9:08:49 UTC, so at 4:08 a.m. 49 seconds and 4:09 a.m. and 18 seconds, there was 2 video calls initiated from Mr. Mitchell to Ms. Hartsfield. And then at 9:09:31 UTC, which is 4:09 a.m. and 31 seconds, Mr. Mitchell sent a message to Ms. Hartsfield stating, "Where you at, bruh? We at the gate." Then,
Mr. Hiles, so going back just a little bit, at 4 o'clock, Mr. Mitchell asked, "Send your Addy," and then after the 85 Mount Zion by Hartsfield's Instagram, how many minutes later after this 4:05 a.m. message from, in Eastern Time, from Ms. Hartsfield's account of 85 Mount Zion is the message you just stated of, "WYA, bro, we're at the gate"?
Approximately 4 minutes.
Okay. What happens after the Instagram account with Mr. Mitchell states he at the gate?
So at 9:09, 54 UTC, which is 4:09, and then at 4:10 a.m. Eastern Time, respectively, there was video events, call events initiated by Mr. Mitchell to Ms. Hartsfield. And then at 4:10 a.m. and 21 seconds, Mr. Mitchell sent a message to Ms. Hartsfield that said, "We finna dip."
After that message of at 4:10:21, what does Ms. Hartsfield's Instagram in relation to Mr. Mitchell's do next?
So then at 4:10:49 and 4:11:31 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, there's video events, video call events initiated by Ms. Hartsfield to Mr. Mitchell. And then at 4:13:51 a.m. and 4:14:19 a.m., there's 2 video calls initiated from Mr. Mitchell towards Ms. Hartsfield.
And after that 4:13 Eastern Time video call event, is there another sequence of video events between the two of them?
Yeah. So at 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 4 video calls initiated by Ms. Hartsfield to Mr. Mitchell in between those. And those started at, so let's see, it was 5:10 a.m. and 20 seconds, 5:10 a.m. and 37 seconds, 5:18 a.m. and 49 seconds, and then at 5:19 a.m. and 17 seconds. There's a video call sequence initiated by Ms. Hartsfield to Mr. Mitchell.
And Mr. Hiles, do you still have that pointer nearby you?
I do.
Can you orient the jury to the 9:14 a.m. or excuse me, the 9:14 UTC call on this exhibit?
So this is where you would see that at 9:14:19 UTC, which is 5:14 a.m., Mr. Mitchell initiated a video call to Ms. Hartsfield.
And Mr. Hiles, in UTC for February of 2019, is it 5 hours or 4 hours?
It's 5 hours. So it would have been 4:14.
And after that 4:14 video call, how much time elapses between the next interaction between Hartsfield's Instagram and Mitchell's?
There is almost an hour in between those at 10:10 and 20 seconds UTC, which is 5:10 a.m. and 20 seconds Eastern Standard Time. You can see that Ms. Hartsfield initiates a video call to Mr. Mitchell.
And Mr. Hiles, is what we had published as 1 November, the CAD report for this incident, did that CAD report, was that generated in this gap of time?
Yes, it was.
And after that 5:10 Eastern Time, depicted in the far left of this screen, Hartsfield video call event to Mitchell, what is next?
Are you the 5:10
Yep, the very top
So
pink
there's
what's going on video chat after that.
There are 4 video calls initiated by Ms. Hartsfield. It would be, I'll stick to Eastern Time, so 5:10 and 20 seconds Eastern Standard Time, 5:10 and 37 seconds Eastern Standard Time, 5:18 and 49 seconds Eastern Standard Time, and 5:19 and 17 seconds Eastern Standard Time are all of the video call events initiated by Ms. Hartsfield to Mr. Mitchell.
Is that 4 video call events from Ms. Hartsfield's Instagram to Mr. Mitchell's in a span of about 10 minutes?
Yes, it is. And again, I don't know if they spoke. I don't know if it was completed. I just know that it was initiated from her account to him.
And scrolling down, can you orient the jury to the time of these video call events depicted on page 5 of 7 November, Charlie?
Yes. So, again, there are 4 video call events initiated by Mr. Mitchell to Ms. Hartsfield, and those times are 5:22 a.m. and 36 seconds, 5:23 a.m. and 12 seconds, 5:23 a.m. and 35 seconds, and 5:26 a.m. and 2 seconds.
And those are Mr. Mitchell's video call events to the Instagram of Ms. Hartsfield?
Yes.
And then what is what is this next message state?
Ms. Hartsfield sends a message to Mr. Mitchell at 5:26 a.m. and 5:26 and 45 seconds a.m. and she sends the message to Mr. Mitchell that says, "On my auntie, we ain't set you up."
And after that 5:26 a.m., when's the next interaction time-wise between Mitchell's associated Instagram and Hartsfield's?
So at 14:09 and 08 and 14:09:20, which would be, I think, about 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's 2 video calls here and here initiated from Ms. Hartsfield to Mr. Mitchell. And then at 14:09:27 UTC, Ms. Hartsfield sends a text, "Bro, y'all good."
And Mr. Hiles, would that 1400, would that be 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time?
So
I mean UTC time?
yes, it would be. So it would be 2 p.m. UTC -5, so about 9 a.m.
And then what is the last message, the time and message from Hartsfield's Instagram to Mitchell's?
Ms. Hartsfield sends the message that says, "Text, bruh, y'all good," phrased as a question.